Let's get ready to rumble!
Hello, and welcome to Netflix vs. Cinema, the podcast that puts things you can watch at home versus things you can watch at the cinema, puts the new world order versus the old world empire, I guess you could say. My name is Tosin, and I am going to be your host over the next hour as we go ahead and talk about things that we have watched at the cinema and compare them to what we've watched at home this week. In what should be a quick-fire episode, joining me on the Isle of Wight are Shaun.
Hello there.
And Sharon.
Hello.
Right, now I say quickfire episode because Marvel have done it again. Marvel have come out and they have become so big in Hollywood that people are giving them the Star Wars treatment, which is we're releasing a film and everybody goes, thank you very much, we'll see you next week, and doesn't bother releasing anything in the same week.
That's exactly right, Toes. I also noticed, I've just noticed in this one, I saw, Godzilla, King of the Monsters is due out in May.
Yep.
I saw the banner. The banners are up there and it said May the 16th. Well, I see now the release date has been put back to the 31st. Oh. Because the 16th was like the day before my birthday and I was hoping to arrange something to go over to see it in IMAX.
Yeah.
But now they've arranged it. But someone said, oh, that's because you got Avengers Endgame round about that time.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that's why they put it back, isn't it? So...
I think everybody is just wise to avoid anything near the release date of Avengers Endgame.
Yeah, for sure. Because that's just that is just that'll be shown on every screen, won't it? At our Cineworld, you can bet that it'll just be on every screen every hour.
Yeah.
That is half hour probably.
That is going to destroy everything in its path. Quite frankly,
it is.
So,
yes, it's just a behemoth.
Yeah. I mean, have you seen the latest trailer for it? They released a trailer for it today.
I haven't. No.
So they released the latest trailer for it today, and I was squeeing at the screen. I was like, oh my god, this is so good. It's actually okay. Obviously Stan Lee died recently.
Yeah.
But he'd filmed a couple of different cameos for upcoming Marvel films.
Yeah.
Yeah, and for the
right.
And we're going to talk about Captain Marvel in a second, and I think the Stan Lee cameo in Captain Marvel is one of the best and cleverest that has happened so far. I mean, when it happened, I was like, oh, that's good. That is good. And it involves Kevin Smith, and Kevin Smith wrote a tribute about it, and he has a sentence in this tribute where he talks about it's embarrassing how much these Marvel films mean to him. And I'm like, yeah, I totally understand. It is actually quite embarrassing when you actually start talking about, oh my God, this is going to happen. And oh my God, we've got Iron Man. Ah! It is actually quite embarrassing, but that's just the way it is. It is.
Yeah, you're allowed.
Yeah. I know. It's kind of, I remember a friend of mine, he was talking about the fact that he was like, do you remember when we were kids and we were the small little weirdos that everybody used to laugh and make fun of because we were uncool? And now the biggest TV shows and biggest films are all about the things that we thought were cool, but nobody else thought were cool when we were kids. He's like, look, the most acclaimed TV show on TV at the moment has got walking zombies and flying dragons in it. He's like... It's like, what a time to be alive. And it's kind of true. It's almost as if, like, the people who were when we were kids grew up and took over Hollywood. So this week we said it's going to be a bit of a quick fire week because obviously we have Marvel. Everybody's running scared from Captain Marvel, and we haven't really seen that much. So Shaun and I, we've both seen Captain Marvel.
We have.
Yes,
and
I haven't yet.
Yeah. And even though this show is called Netflix vs. Cinema, we do sometimes branch out to other home viewing platforms to see what they have to offer. And Sharon, you braved and left the comfort of Netflix and went to see something else this week.
Yes, I saw something on Amazon. It wasn't Amazon Prime, but it was through Amazon that I watched this film.
Ah,
yes.
I see. Okay, cool. Good stuff. And that was Juliet Naked.
Juliet Naked, yes.
Yep. Which I believe All right, cool. So let's kick off and let's see what it is that cinema has to offer. Pretty much the only new thing cinema has to offer this week, which is Captain Marvel. Now, Shaun, are you able to just so far away tell us a little bit about Captain Marvel?
About Captain Marvel. Okay, basically this it's a story of a Kree warrior that they've been having this battle with
a what now warrior?
Oh well, Kree, but actually, so I think Kree. Okay, so we got Krees, we got Skrulls. Right, Skrulls are whatever. I can't really give any spoilers here, but basically, it's like these two races.
They're aliens, they're not from Earth.
Yeah, that are not from Earth, and they're sort of having this battle, if you like, because they don't like each other, and it ends up ending up on Earth, and you've got this lady who's a Kree who suddenly is trying to discover she's got these powers and she wants to find out. She doesn't really know. She's suffering a little bit from amnesia, but gradually through the film, it becomes more and more evident what goes on. So, and yeah, she ends up obviously having these super duper powers, which so she's a major superhero.
So I've seen the trailer, so I know she ends up with a younger Nick Fury, played by Samuel L. Jackson, and I know I'm familiar with him from the Captain America films. Where is that where we first meet him in Captain America? Anyway, he's in the Marvel universe, isn't he?
Yes.
So when is this set then? Because he's he's still got his eye, hasn't he?
It's the 90s, isn't it?
Yeah. So this is
1990s.
I think this is unfortunately one of these films. I feel especially when Marvel do a film now, the film doesn't exist in a bubble anymore because it's connected to this big wider thing, and there's a wider narrative outside of the films that's going on. So this is the 21st film, I believe it is. It's the 21st film in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but the big thing about this is that everyone has been talking about is the first one that has a female lead character, or has it's a solo female outing. So in all the films that they've made, in all the other 20 films they've made, never have we had a woman who is the sole focus of this whole thing. And so there's this whole big thing. And to be honest with you, Shaun, before watching this film, I was not really expecting much.
Well, it's going to be interesting. This is going to be a really, really interesting podcast because I got some things I want to say about this movie. Before watching this film, I was really not expecting much because I felt like the weight of expectation on this film was just because people were huge.
Yeah, it was huge because it's the first...
It was huge for me. It was huge for me as well.
Yeah, because I'm not sure... I never read the Captain Marvel novels. I mean, comic books.
I didn't myself, actually. Yeah. I never read the Captain Marvel ones.
So unlike something like Iron Man or Captain America, I was not really that familiar with it. But I was going into this and I was just thinking, this is... Because... Obviously, there's the whole thing about, it's the first female solo outing in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Why is it taking them so long? They better represent it properly. I was not really looking forward to this film because I was just kind of like, I think whatever's going to happen, it's going to come down a bit. It's going to be down a bit. But as Shaun said, the film kicks off with this sort of intergalactic war that's already started between these two races. And throughout, then it comes down to answer Sharon's question. It comes down to the Earth in 1995.
Okay.
So it's sort of like a throwback for the MCU. So the entire film is set in 1995. So it starts off when she actually crashes onto Earth. She crashes through the roof of a Blockbuster Video, which is one of those little details that I just absolutely loved. I absolutely loved the fact that she crashes into a Blockbuster Video because you're like, oh my God, I remember those. They don't exist anymore. Killed by Netflix, weirdly enough. And so you meet a young Nick Fury, you need a younger Shield, and you have the Skrulls who are shapeshifters, and you have the Kree who are just they seem sort of this warrior race, and they see their job as like, no, these Skrulls are insurgents and we need to wipe out these Skrulls. So, but as Shaun says, she doesn't have any memory, she doesn't remember who she is, but there's hints that she's actually human and she's not an alien.
Human, yep.
Okay. Yeah, things keep popping up that make it seem like she might be human, but she's like, she has images in her head of people and she's like, who are they? I don't know who they are. I don't remember who I am. And throughout the film, there's the sort of subtext is her discovering herself and her figuring out who she really is. And so that
shades of Star-Lord in Guardians of the Galaxy, perhaps.
No, not quite. I mean,
Not quite. Okay.
yeah, because Star-Lord always knew where he came from. He just didn't know who his dad was. Star-Lord pretty much knew,
Okay.
he pretty much knew everything.
That he was human.
Yeah, but with her,
Okay.
she honestly doesn't have a clue who she is. Like even the Kree don't seem to be too clear about what to do with her. They know that she has this power that none of them have, and they treat her so like all special and all that. But she knows she's different. But she's trying to figure out. She spends the whole film trying to figure out why she's different, why what's going on, what actually happened to her in the past, all that sort of stuff. And so you have this superhero movie, but within it is this whole journey of self-discovery narrative where she's trying to figure out who she is, what she stands for, what does she believe, and all that kind of stuff. So at very many moments, this actually feels like a small indie movie, and every now and then something special effectsy happens or something actiony happens. But for the large part of the running time, it feels like a small indie movie. And quite frankly, I was glad I went in with no expectations because I actually ended up quite enjoying it. But it is. And this is what
I knew you were going to say that.
Yeah,
I knew that was coming.
The thing is, I actually quite,
You could guess my reaction.
yeah. I actually quite enjoyed it. But the thing is, one of the things I like about Marvel is that they have got to the stage where they started pretty much doing whatever the hell they want, and so it's a big blockbuster movie. It's in some ways it's an origin story. But they essentially decided, no, we're not going to do your typical origin story. We're going to mess around with it a bit. So there's bits of this where the film goes massively trippy. There's bits of it where you're going, what is going on? There's bits where the whole thing slows down. There's twists and all that. But in the end, I quite liked what they were doing. I don't. There's some things I think that Shaun might talk about, which I don't think quite work. But I'm going to stop and I'm going to let you to talk, Shaun.
You're going to let me have my tirade now, yeah?
Yeah, go
This
ahead.
This film for me is one step above Superman, Batman, Dawn of Justice. Worst Marvel film I have seen. The worst, horriblest Marvel film I have seen. I'm sorry. It was horrible. I had so many, it's so inconsistent. There's so many inconsistencies. There's bits again, and there's a bit in it, which is exactly like in Batman, Superman, where you've got people stood around in a circle watching someone doing something and they just watch it. And then you've got things that you've got these super strong, she's supposed to be a super strong woman and yet she can get held back by humans. It's just like, what is going on here? It's like, get yourself sorted out. I hated it. Absolutely hated it.
No.
Loathed it with a passion. Boring. Jude Law was awful at the end. The most awful piece of overhand acting. Annette Bening, totally disappointed with her. Useless, absolutely useless, the pair of them. But Jude Law was like, yeah, and it's like, oh man, total letdown. Total letdown. Hated it with a passion. I shan't bother to see it again. So
getting a few vibes from you, Shaun.
To me, this is the worst Marvel film by far.
Really?
Even there's so many DC films that are loads better than this, but Superman, Dawn of Justice. So this is where I think Marvel are going to start to choke. There had to come a time for me. They've been so consistently good, so absolutely brilliantly. All the films I've loved, all the films. This was a major letdown.
Okay,
Oh.
now I
Right, I'm done. Sorry.
Okay, cool. Well, first of all, I think some of the things that you say maybe, but going to say that worse than Batman vs Superman, that is harsh. that is
Well,
harsh.
yeah, I was very, very disappointed.
Well, the thing about it is that I think that this film is definitely not your typical thing. I mean, when you talk about it being slow, I think I can understand what you're saying with that, and I think it's, as I said, it feels like an indie movie that happens to have. It feels like an indie movie that happens to have a superhero in it.
Tosin, surely you've got to agree with me with the Jude Law role.
No. The Jude Law. I think the bit you're talking about at the end. I think the bit that you're talking about at the end. I think was setting up. It was obviously to set up a gag, and I thought the gag was really, really obvious what was going to happen.
I didn't get a gag.
Well, the thing is, it was.
I did like the end credits. So
Was there the usual end credit scenes?
And I did, yes, and I did like Ben Mendelsohn.
Yeah,
okay.
There was a couple of quips there that Ben Mendelsohn, but then he's good in most things. Yeah. But I did like the I guess, the animal in it was quite cute.
Or the cat. There's a cat in this
There's an
film.
animal?
Little cat. Yeah, there's a cat.
There's a cat in this film
I
called
forget,
Goose.
I forget what he calls. Yeah, what does he? I forget what they. There's a name that
It's a
the different
flurkin.
ones Flurkin. That's it. A flurkin. Yeah.
So essentially,
it's not a cat. It's a flurkin. That's what they must call them on another planet.
Yeah. So whenever, so you have this cat, and this cat has become like a big breakout star from the film, and the cat's called Goose. This cat keeps showing up and has a bit. It has a say in what happens. It's like this cat becomes kind of central to actually what happens in the film. But Goose is this cat, and you have Ben Mendelsohn who plays a Skrull, and he's the nominal bad guy in the film. And for once, actually uses his own accent. So the bad guy in this film has an Australian accent. He's an alien with an Australian accent. So, which is
very similar to Cork with the New Zealand accent.
Right.
In
Thor Ragnarok.
Very similar.
And I think what they do with the film is actually quite good. I think with Ben Mendelsohn's character, it was totally unexpected, because I remember the Skrulls from reading the comic books, and I hated the Skrulls. I absolutely hated them. They were when you talk about bad guys, I just did not like them, because I
think they originally they were a Fantastic Four enemy. Yeah. I'm pretty sure they turned up. They were like in Fantastic Four number 3 or something like that. Really early Fantastic Four episodes. Of course, Marvel haven't got Fantastic Four, have they?
No, not to make films about. Not yet, anyway.
Not to make films. Not yet. Well.
But
I've got a feeling, Toes, and sorry to butt in there, that this is going to be it's not a good film to bring out before Endgame, Avengers Endgame, but then that might be to make people...
You normally find that they do release a smaller Marvel film, or they think it's a smaller Marvel film before they come out with the big guns. Yeah. So you do tend to find they do this piggyback thing, don't they?
That's it.
Well, because if you look at the last ones, they've kind of they went Black Panther. So I think before they do something that they know is going to be a surefire, massive, world-conquering hit, they do something a bit risky. So they did Black Panther, which was the first time they actually had a black superhero leading it, and not just a black superhero, but an African one who was actually leading a film, which people might have seen as a bit of a risk, but became a massive hit. Then they did Infinity War. Then after that, they followed that up with a smaller film, which was Ant-Man and the Wasp. And I think they know Endgame, as we said, everybody knows whether Endgame is good or bad, it's going to just destroy everything in its wake.
It is, yeah.
So
Definitely.
I think before that, they're like, okay, cool, let's take another risk. And they've taken a risk with this. And I think that there's some of the things that I think Shaun worries about, where this is a film that I think is so aware of its social responsibility, if you will, in inverted commas. So I
don't see why, though. I don't see why. You can still, I'm not a misogynist in any way, shape or form whatsoever. Far from it. I'm totally different. But the film's just bad. The film's just bad. And to use that as an excuse for a poor film is not fair. I think that's totally unfair to say, you're a misogynist because it's a female film, I loved Wonder Woman. I thought Wonder Woman was excellent. Wonder Woman was fantastic. Yeah, but I've got a lot of issues with this one.
Okay, Shaun, calm down. Let me talk.
Okay, I'll calm down. Okay, go for it.
No, but the thing is, I don't think it's a bad film. I do not think it's a bad film. I think it is a different film. I think because when you talk about what you expect in a superhero movie and everything like that, it's a lot more contemplative than what you expect in most superhero movies. There's huge swathes of this film where there is no action, where there's a lot more sitting down and looking through albums than there is any action, or a lot more sitting down and talking about the nature of war or something, or contemplating on that than there is any action. But when you talk about different things, like let me go. Annette Bening, I liked her. Ben Mendelsohn liked her. Brie liked him. Sorry, Brie Larson. I liked her, although I felt that she had a very peculiar superhero walk. I don't know why, but whenever they had like a close of her walking, I was like, why is she walking like that? But I think it's a difficult character to nail. And I think there's some times where the tone is kind of like, I'm not entirely sure what kind of tone that they're going for. But in the end, I quite liked it. And I think that the film ends up being not so much about the superhero and about all that kind of stuff, as it does being about women and about the way women are viewed.
I can understand that.
Yeah.
I didn't have a problem. I didn't have a problem with Brie Larson. I did have a problem with Annette Bening because I thought she was just there for obviously getting the paycheck. You know, she was like, I mean, at least Robert Redford when he was in the Iron Man film was had something about him, but she had nothing. I think she was, you know. She just looked, you know.
To be fair,
I can't even think. I can picture a face at the airfield and thinking, "Oh my God, woman, what are you doing? That is awful. You were just getting your paycheck." And as I say, as for, I mean, I quite like Nick Fury as well. You know, I mean, Nick Fury was good in it, and I did like Captain Marvel, but you know, it's just the inconsistencies and some of the people that were around her. But that was awful.
Well, the thing is, I mean,
Captain... Could just answer me this, Tosin? Do you not think that sort of final scene just was like, you know, what? Well, you enjoyed it. You thought it was all right. You didn't mind the Jude Law character.
Which the final scene with Jude Law?
Yeah.
No,
so did you like that?
I thought that was a very obvious setup for a joke. I mean, I think I saw that.
What joke? I didn't get it, Tosin. I didn't get the joke. Anyway, you tell me about it off. I'll tell you about it off air. But
it's a joke that has been used in cinema beforehand. It's been used over and over again in cinema, and I thought it was a very, very obvious setup for a joke. So I felt like that bit, the film went it does go hammy because it's set up for a joke, and I didn't particularly like that bit, but I do feel, but this is one of the things I think, because they made a big deal before the film was released and talked about Captain Marvel and how she was going to be the most powerful superhero that they've had yet in the MCU. Yeah. And I'm looking at it and I'm thinking, I think they're going to have to power her down for Avengers Endgame. Because there's a bit like, essentially you have a problem. It's the same way with Vision. When Vision was first introduced into the MCU, he could do like anything, and in each subsequent film that he's shown up in, they've been like, oh yeah, we have a bit of a problem here, because if anything shows up, we just go, well, just send Vision.
Well, that's it.
Yeah, you see, just send Vision.
Actually, to go back to that,
and so they powered him down, and I think that they're gonna, because towards the end of the film, when she figures out her full power and everything like that, I'm looking and going, well, if she can do that, then they're just going to say, oh, Thanos, here we are. Just send Captain Marvel. She'll deal with him. But they're going to have to power her down a bit, because I towards the end I was thinking, yeah, it's great that she's that powerful, but it kind of gives you a problem. It's a Superman problem, where why do you bother with anybody else when you have him? And I think there's a little bit of a problem with, why do you bother with anybody else when you have Captain Marvel just hanging around? But it's...
Excuse me for sort of just asking maybe an obvious question. Does it explain why she's not around in later films?
Yes, it does.
Because we've got all the Avengers. Yes, I know she's not an Avenger.
Yeah.
So does it explain why she doesn't suddenly pop up and give, Thanos a thrashing?
That's right.
Yeah.
It does. Shows, oh, okay. So that would be interesting just to get that.
Obviously, at the
joining
end,
the dots.
That's it. Yeah. So you do figure that one.
Yeah, it does. It does explain why that's the case.
Yeah.
It does explain that.
So yeah.
So Sharon, I think you should go see it.
I'm intending to go and see it. Yeah, my brother and my nephew went to see it last night, and they both enjoyed it.
Did they?
I only had a very brief. My brother just said, "Yeah, I enjoyed it, and so did Nipper." So that was their verdict, the sum total of their verdict. But they. So I think there is appeal out there for it. I think it's.
Oh no,
maybe for the Leicester.
It's already a massive hit. The film's already a massive hit, but so
I hope to see that next
reviews
week.
Or anything.
Yeah.
I don't tend to now.
What are main reviews like? Have you read any reviews?
I've seen 2 reviews. One gave it 4, one gave it 3.
Right. So, okay.
Yeah, and it's one gave it 4, one gave it 3, and I think it's a film with a lot on its mind. It's a film with a lot on its mind, and it's a film that says, look, sometimes you have a superhero movie. It's a bit like Black Panther, where Black Panther says, we have a superhero movie, but we have something else that we're going to try and do within the superhero movie. And they do, and it's done in a totally different way, but it's a film that has a lot on its mind. And personally, I liked it, but I'll give it a 3, because there are, Shaun talks about inconsistencies. What kicks off the whole film, I still have a big question about it. I'm like, wait a second, why would you do that if you knew that? If you knew, why would you? Why send her there if you knew? and I still haven't figured out what on earth was going on or why that happened. And it seems that it only happens because you need something to start the film, and which so yeah, I'm still waiting to see if maybe that can be made clear to me. But at the moment, I'm just kind of like at the beginning, there's a bit of a inconsistency that doesn't quite work, and but I do like, and I think the technology that they use for de-aging people is the best it's ever been, because Samuel L. Jackson as a young Nick Fury, it's
you
I
don't notice it through the
you do not notice it at all.
It just seems like normal.
Yeah, I wasn't watching it going, oh yeah, they've made Samuel L. Jackson look younger. I was just kind of like, yeah, Samuel L. Jackson, yeah, well, no big deal about it. And then after the film, when I saw actually see a picture of what he looks like today, and like, oh my God, that's amazing. What they've done with him is amazing. But yeah, I'd give it a 3 out of 5. Shaun, go ahead.
Well, I mean, I know I had issues with it and everything like that, but I mean, I give it a 2-star for the Firkin and Ben Mendelsohn.
So it's a 1-star film, but an extra star because of Ben Mendelsohn and Goose the cat.
Goose the cat. Yeah, that's it. That's the one. That's the one. Yeah. So but as I say, it is all subjective, isn't it? I mean, for me, I didn't enjoy it.
Yeah.
I just, I didn't even enjoy it. I mean, sometimes I can sit through a film and it may be bad, but at least, I'll watch it. But that just, I was like, I get my annoying bit where I sort of turn around when I'm in my chair, I just have to turn from side to side sort of thing, because I'm thinking, oh, come on. It's like car chases and things, in film. It's just like, oh no. So yeah.
Oh, maybe that's the problem. There is a car chase early on in this film, but maybe
yes, exactly. Yeah, that was. I forgot. I was going to mention that as well. That one even slipped from my mind. An awful car chase as well. Stupid, ridiculous car chase. Why do they do it? Eh? But there you go. I suppose young people like it. I mean, you know me, I hate the Fast and Furious films too. I mean, I don't let people love them. They make a fortune.
Happily go away, get a drink, come back with a biscuit, and when the car chase is on, because I don't personally feel that they add anything to any film. No. So
they go on way too long.
Yeah.
This is
the only good driving film was Baby Driver.
It isn't really a car chase. It's one of those ones, like, think a bit like The French Connection, where you have a car going and then you have a train going above it and the car's trying to catch up with the train, that kind of thing. And it's pretty much the first thing she does when she gets...
Not as good as that, though.
Okay, let's move on. Let's move on.
Let's move on.
I think the same way Avengers Endgame is going to destroy everything in its path, I think Shaun's vitriol is going to destroy anything in its path tonight.
It is tonight, yeah.
So up against Captain Marvel, we have the film that Sharon, you saw on Amazon, which was Juliet Naked. So tell us about Juliet Naked.
Yes. Juliet Naked is based on a Nick Hornby novel.
Yep.
And it suits following a Marvel film quite well, because one of the main characters in Juliet Naked is a man who is an obsessive.
Oh, yeah.
And you get obsessives about Marvel films and comic books in particular. Yeah. The comic persons, they're after every edition and every if there's one character they like, then they just pursue it endlessly. They became completists.
Yeah.
And this is a story about one man called Duncan, who basically in the 1990s, he became a huge fan of an indie artist called Tucker Crow.
Yep.
And now Tucker Crow released several albums and had a following, mainly men. And he released this album called Juliet. That was basically an angry breakup album, and it became like his seminal work.
Yeah.
And then whilst touring this album, one day when he was in a bar in Minneapolis, he didn't finish the set. He went to the toilet and then he just left. He walked out and he has never been heard of again. And then fast forward to 2018 when this film was made, and Duncan is in a relationship with a lady called Annie. And he has been sent the original demo tapes for the album called Juliet, and it's been titled Juliet Naked because it's stripped bare. It's the original demos of all these songs.
Yeah.
Now, he listens to it and he thinks it's like a work of genius. It's like, the best thing that's ever happened in his life. And Annie listens to it and thinks it's mediocre and it's just tosh because, it's like an early version of like the completed work was good, but that the demos were just like Yeah, they're demos. They're an incomplete version of what later became good.
Yeah.
And so Duncan runs this fan site for all things Tucker Crow, and he posted this, this eulogizing review of this demo. And then Annie goes on and thinks, well, I'm going to write my own review. And she goes, this was like a mediocre, tepid nonsense, basically.
Bit like me and Toes in
Yeah.
Captain Marvel.
And exactly like that. And then she gets an email one day saying, you know what, I really agree with you. Thanks so much for your honest review, Tucker Crow. And so she ends up in this like email exchange with him saying, like, is it really you? He goes, yes, it's really me. And then they form this friendship. And that's how the story progresses, basically. She and Duncan have decided, they've been together 15 years. And the only thing that's been holding them together is like habit. And then when she sort of meets Tucker Crow in flesh, she's realised, that actually, why am I still with this guy?
Yeah.
Who I've just been with for 15 years. And he suddenly is interested in her because their relationship has just gone completely flat and stale.
Yeah.
But then as soon as Tucker Crow appears and he's interested in her, it's like, hang on a minute, if Tucker Crow's interested in you, then hey, there must be something about you that's attractive.
I guess.
And so it's a dynamic about their relationship and about how people. It's a film about relationships, basically.
Yeah, and I guess it helps that Tucker Crow is played by Ethan Hawke.
Ethan Hawke, yeah, and I think he's just almost when I first saw that, I thought, oh, Ethan Hawke, but actually I think he's perfect casting because he was like the face of the 90s,
yeah,
and then effectively he disappeared, and you see him in the odd film, but he's not this film star that he once was. I mean, he was like the Generation X, he was like the face of a generation,
yeah,
and so when you see him now as a middle-aged man, he's got a little bit more weight around the middle. He's definitely got grey hair, and he is a man of his time. And he was saying, I used to be this famous rock star, but I'm not anymore. And when Duncan first meets him, he's like saying, "Who's that man? They're obviously older than you. Obviously, sort of like a rebound relationship." And he goes, hello, my name is, I'm Tucker Crow. He goes, oh yeah, and I'm Stevie Wonder. And then he goes away and he goes, how dare he pretend to be Tucker Crow just to annoy me? And they said, well, does he look anything like him? And then he finds one of his old fan posters and he goes, wow, actually, age him 20 years, it could be him.
So was this a comedy? Or
it's a comedy.
It's a comedy. It's a comedy. Yeah.
Yes, a romantic comedy.
No way.
Yeah, so there are some... It does deal with relationships, how she's a woman who's in her 40s now, who is desperate to have children, and they never had children together. No. And Tucker Crow is a single man who's had 5 children in 4 different relationships, and he's, been married several times, and he's just never ever found
the right one.
Yeah.
And so, things happen. But I thought, it's a charming film. I enjoyed all of the cast members. The only thing that slightly put me off is every time you see Rose Byrne, who plays Annie, she's carrying a handbag, or she's behind a chair, or she's like draped in something, and I'm thinking, was she pregnant when she made this film? Because you never see all of her.
I think she was.
You only see her head and shoulders, and then, yes, I later found out in the trivia bit when I looked it up, she was pregnant during the making of this film. Yeah. But to me, it got to the point where I was thinking, why is she always clutching her handbag in front of her? And I was like, why do you never see all of her? Or if you do, it's like from the back. And a few times I was thinking, she's pregnant.
Oh, there you go. Well noticed.
But I found that slightly distracting. But that's just a very small thing.
Yeah,
but I found it quite a charming film, and I enjoyed it very much.
Okay.
I begin to think that maybe we've watched too many films when we start noticing things like that.
Yes, I don't know if everyone would notice it, because one of the notes I said, it says, well, they cunningly disguised the fact that she was pregnant by making her hold these bags and standing behind.
That wasn't cunning, that was blatantly obvious.
Yes, because there's one scene where she stood there, and the whole time she's just clutching her handbag. And I thought, did she think someone's going to mug her or something? Because she's clutching her handbag in front of her. And normally the first thing you do when you walk in is like you dump your bag, you dump your coat, and there's her clutching it desperately. And I'm thinking, why are you doing that? You're hiding something.
Okay.
But no, I would say it's very sweary, as in a lot of modern comedies are. They seem to think that, it's just like, hey, we're modern people, we're going to swear a lot. But I did think all 3 people played their roles very well, and it helped that I had read the book.
Yeah, because it does strike me that it's the kind of film that rises and falls on the chemistry of its characters. So Chris O'Dowd, Ethan Hawke, and Rose Byrne.
Yes, and I think Chris O'Dowd plays Duncan perfectly. You get the feeling that he would be someone who would know every single track on every album, that he would get like amateur recordings of every concert, and that he would become a completist. So he would want to know every day that everything he'd played, and in the book, it's funny, they have this holiday where they go on a Tucker Crow pilgrimage, and they basically go and stare at his parents' house, and they go and...
Oh my God.
And they just go and they do this proper fan thing.
Fan base, yeah.
Where they go and Danny's like, it's the worst holiday she's ever had. But Tucker's like, I actually stood in the toilets where he had his, existential crisis.
Yeah.
And they just go and do the whole... And we all know people who are that obsessive about fandom, who do really mad things.
Yeah.
And they do tend to be sort of middle-aged men, don't they?
Middle-aged, yeah, they do. You're right.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Middle-aged men have funny times. Well, I'm past middle age, so I'm all right now.
Yeah, I don't know what you're talking about, Sharon. That whole thing about me going to the place where they filmed bits of Avengers: Infinity War is totally untrue.
I mean, I think there's one like the Star Wars ones that are obsessive that go to Morocco or wherever it is where they film Star Wars.
And they want to be photographed outside of certain things. I've got a friend who's very obsessive about all sorts of stuff, and he even became sort of pen pals with some of the actors who were in like Star Wars films. He was just obsessive about it, and he knows everything about it. He actually tracked down like Michael. Do you remember Michael Sheard, who was in Grange Hill, but he retired to the Isle of Wight? And my friend found out this. We actually tracked him down and actually became quite good pals with him.
Yeah.
But he basically tracked him down because he was in Star Wars: A New Hope.
Funny, I tell you what it is. I'm not that bad, and I think, for like celebs or whatever, be they sportsmen or whatever, I'm not phased at all by them. It's just, they just are people, really.
Yes. Yeah, so I think it's an interesting take on the fact that how he views his own fame and celebrity and lack of sort of work since the 1990s, and how someone else views his talent as he's like a genius. When someone's saying to you, you're absolute genius, but you don't recognise it because genius to you is like water to a plumber.
Oh right.
And that's quite a nice line actually, because at the very end you have a scene of like an album cover, and I don't think it's a spoiler to say that Tucker Crow at the end of the film releases a new album.
Right.
And when you see the back of cover of this album, and then one of the tracks is called Like Water for a Plumber.
Right.
And there's some really funny, if you pause and you read this album cover, some of the titles are really funny, and it does nod to all sorts of things you've seen in the film.
Brilliant.
But no, I enjoyed it, so I'll give it a 4.
Okay, cool.
Juliet naked. A 4.
All right, cool. So in a shorter version this week, it is no surprise to find out after Shaun's giving it both barrels. it is no to find out that the winner is, well, I guess you say Netflix. Well, yeah, Netflix home. Staying at home. Staying at home was the winner.
Staying at home.
Staying at home was the winner this week. But I think it will be interesting to see, Sharon. You could go be a tiebreaker, go see Captain Marvel, and let us know what you think.
That would be really good.
I will see it. I'm intending to see it this week.
You've heard both versions. So.
Yeah.
So that would be good. And I will definitely try, because there's not much else on, I will definitely try and see Fighting With My Family, because it's still on.
Well, I'm hoping to see Fisherman's Friends. I hope that's out this week.
Yeah, I think it is.
But I'm really looking forward to that. I love a bit of folk music. I love a bit of folk music.
You'll be into that.
So I'm really looking forward to listening to that. We'll sing along if I can. I probably know most of the songs.
Yeah.
And so next week I think we'll bring those in next week, and we also have some things that we're holding over from this week. So there was a Billy Graham documentary that you saw, Sharon, and I saw Robert Redford and Jane Fonda being Robert Redford and Jane Fonda in a film on Netflix, a Netflix film even called Our Souls at Night. But we'll keep that until next week. Week. In the meantime, all that's left to say is goodbye from me.
Yep.
And goodbye from me.
And bye-bye from me. And I'm calmed down now, Toby, so we're all right.
Don't worry. When we finish, we can have...
Sharon's used the calming influence on me.
I have. I've just sent those vibes.
Yeah, sent those vibes.
Okay, no, don't worry. I think once we hit record and we stop recording, we can have a little bit of a spoilerific chat about the things you didn't like.
Yeah.
And don't worry, I'll hype you all up again. And then just sort of cut the phone off and leave it. All right. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you for listening, and we will see you next week. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.